Welcome back. Established in 2014, Chinatown Soup is an organization that has created an art space in downtown neighborhood of New York City. The organization focuses on advancing art, justice, historic preservation, and civic engagement. Artist Victor Castro joins me to discuss Chinatown Soup's 10-year milestone and his journey with the organization as an artist. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about Chinatown Soup and the community it has formed over the years?
Yeah, so Chinatown Soup is a creative collective that was formed about 10 years ago now off of Orchard Street. It's all about civic engagement, grassroots movements towards what's happening in activism, but also in art, and speaking to that through art.
That's amazing. Now, can you talk about Chinatown Soup and basically how it mentions how economic forces and government policies drive corporate luxury expansion and displaced resident, which I think is kind of an amazing thing that a place that's kind of centered around art is even focusing on those topics.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how the organization uses art to address political or societal issues?
Yeah, so the front half of Chinatown Soup is a rotating gallery space, and then the back half is more of the community center, which also acts as a cafe, but also a shop. And so the back half of Chinatown Soup is often used as a community center at night to really have these meetups with people who are local and also visiting to talk about these things, because it is really scary. It's like what Rivington and Orchard looked like 10 years ago, even 15 years ago compared to now. The disparity is terrifying. And the businesses who are still there, who haven't shuttered, are watching it change every day. And it's one of those things that we have to keep talking about and not really take our eye off of, because it's one of those things in cities like New York, it's kind of progressively getting worse. So we kind of have to be on top of the ball constantly.
And kind of having that idea in mind, can you talk about the importance of artists kind of using their platform, any type of platform, to kind of talk about social injustice? I know this isn't something that's new. This has always been a thing.
Absolutely.
So can you talk a little bit more as an artist, what you've seen in that regard?
Yeah, so one of the things I love about Chinatown Soup the most is the area. It's in an area called Times Square, which is kind of a riff on Times Square, but also it's very self-referential. It's what people would call post-hipster, but it's a place where people are meeting to talk about things that are important. And a lot of the artists that have been at Soup, whether it's visiting or they have an artist residency there, their eyes are always on what's happening in terms of geopolitical stuff, activism, things that are local but also global, and kind of helping mobilize each other. Because everything that we've gone through the past couple of years, it is a trauma. It's very exhausting, and it can be super easy to burn out. So having this collective of artists, having this collective of people who are not only active socially, but mentally, who are moving with love in their mind, it's super key and pivotal, and that's really a big part of what keeps me there. I want to be at a place where I know people have like interests and values, but I also want to be in a place where I'm challenged. I meet people who don't think like me, people who are considered aggressive or intense, other side of the aisle, things like that. Like, those things don't go away. We have to talk about them and face them and have the uncomfortable conversation through art, through community meetups, through collective groups, to move forward. Otherwise, we get stuck in a circle of hate and it solves nothing.
And I think that art is an amazing, outlet for a lot of people. So I'm really glad to hear that, there's more than just what meets the eye. There's kind of a deeper message to a lot of the art.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. Now, what also is amazing is that Chinatown Soup will be celebrating its milestone of 10 years on Orchard Street. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so for 10 years, we're making a tarot deck. So a big part of Chinatown Soup in the past year or two has been Spirit Soup, which is an offshoot of that. And basically meeting where mystical and holistic intervene, or not intervene, but meet in the middle, like the Venn diagram of that. So our tarot deck features 22 artists who are dear to Chinatown Soup from the past 10 years to contribute art that not only speaks socially about what's going on, but also taps into the occult and the major arcana, the minor arcana, and just kind of mixes it all up like a melting pot.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but is this kind of a part of the Moon Magic Circle? It sounds
Yes.
like it might be kind of similar.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
We've recently started having a full moon circle, which is a community ritual that's open to people of all faiths, creeds, religions, practices, to kind of talk about what's happening in the sky, what's happening politically, and how do those things sometimes coincide with each other. Planetary transits are very important in a lot of different practices. So we like to kind of meet people where they are and get them all in one group and kind of have fun and engage and like I said, meet people you probably wouldn't have met otherwise. Because that's really a big part of, for us, grassroots starts small and like we have to start at the bottom, not the top down.
Okay, and then for somebody like me, honestly, what would that kind of consist of? Like, what can somebody expect if they go to one of these events?
So we talk about what's happening in the sky with the lunation. We talk about the astrological signs. So for this past one, we talked about the Capricorn full moon was about Ganesha. So we brought in aspects about the Hindu practice and how the parables from that can apply to today.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. And I know there's a lot of people who are definitely like into signs, and so I could imagine that's like a really that's a really popular, kind of event. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now I know another event, one of your upcoming events is Girl Dinner. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Girl Dinner is after the pop culture phenomenon that's happening now, talking about bite-sized meals that girls sometimes feel comfortable or not comfortable sharing online because it can be stressful to be a woman from what I've heard. So it's like, it's a artist-led collective featuring that. So it's women only, talking about Girl Dinner and then having a kind of like slam poetry / dinner, an actual dinner on August 1st to bring those things together. It's kind of a throwback to what life used to be like for friend groups before cell phones.
Wow.
So it's a little more like being more present, being more honest, a little more open, and not as guarded as we sometimes can be now.
I like that, and I like that the organization has so many different areas for people who may be interested in one thing, and for others who are interested in something else. Can you tell me a little bit more in your experience, what you're most interested in being a part of this organization?
Yeah, so I have a studio at Soup. The entire length of Chinatown Soup, the front half is the rotating gallery, the back half is the shop, and then the entire basement is for the residency for artists. So during the day, I'm a full-time freelance photographer, and then at night, I make ritual candles, and that ties into the moon circle and other practices that I offer at Soup. And I think my favorite is being able to have a studio space where I can make my ritual candles.
And can you tell us a little bit more
Yeah,
about the candles?
So it's, I think people would classify me as like a brujo, which is brujeria, which is magic. It's a bunch of words for the same thing. So I have a side company called Potencia, which is power in Spanish. And it's the idea that power isn't purchased or inherited, it's claimed. So it's helping teach people how to use ritual tools, tie into their own lineage, to find spirituality or religion, whatever they choose. Because it's like, it's not my job to pass judgment, but it's gonna help people on their path just like I was helped back in the day.
And I love that this is also a form of art, which I want to say anything that's expression, I feel, is a form of art.
Absolutely.
With that being said, how does your work as a candle maker, carver, empower people across faith and, kind of show people, although people have these ideas, about it, how does it show people that this is also another form of art that can be appreciated?
Yes, I think it's super important to be an example of what you believe in. So for me, it's kind of bridging the gap between all these different words that kind of get jumbled around, like spell work, manifestation, prayer. To me, at the end of the day, it's all just different beats singing the same song. And I think that's super important to kind of thread that needle to unify people, because that's the one thing we kind of need right now. In a world that's immensely scary, having connectivity and community is life-saving for a lot of folks.
That's amazing. And how, what was the response like? Can you tell us a little bit about, the candle making classes and kind of what the response
Oh yeah,
has been
it's
in the
been
community?
incredible. It's definitely surprising because I used to be the kind of person that I used to hide this. I came out as gay when I was a freshman in high school, so the idea of coming out as a brujo and like doing it again to my family is like, there's no way, I could never. But it's something that I had to explore, and really it turned into something that I can use to help others, which that to me is meaningful, and that above all else is what I want to chase. I mean, I love doing photography. It's one of my favorite things, but the candle making, helping people who are struggling to find a voice, their voice or connection, it's a call I feel always have to answer. It was done for me, and I think paying it forward like that is super important.
Now, how can people sign up for the candle making class or just learn a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so you can sign up by going to chinatownsoup.nyc. My website is potencia.studio. There's a portal there for booking different appointments for either our Eventbrite classes or the different practitioners who are actually selling their services at Chinatown Soup as well. So we have myself making candles, we have an in-house tattoo artist, we have a Reiki healer, we have our wonderful tea connoisseur, Tim, who is the partner to the founder, and he does these tea sittings on Sunday, traditional loose leaf tea, with like meditation pairings, and it's a wonderful experience for folks who kind of want to detangle and kind of do something off the beaten track in New York City.
Now, I also understand that you're a Bronx native.
Yeah,
So can you
I live 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
I walked here.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So how does that impact, the work that you do and the services that you provide for people?
I feel like I bring my point of view to Manhattan a lot more. And I'm very proud of being from the BX. It's definitely been a struggle for me because I feel like when it came to art, I didn't mix around here as much as I should have. I bounced around. It was like Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, the Bronx. So now to be where I'm at now, I love bringing that energy and like recommending folks to come like to the Bronx. There are things like the Zoo, the Botanical Garden, Wave Hill, Mott Haven, and reminding them that the Bronx isn't a snippet from an 80s movie anymore. It's not Carlito's Way all the time. It's a very nuanced and complex place, and it should be treated as such.
Well, with that being said, I agree. And I'm from the Bronx as well, so I'd love to hear you say that and love to see that people from the Bronx are doing amazing things and kind of expanding. We want to stay here, but we also want to expand and share,
it's important to just like spread that light.
Right.
Good
so
vibes.
with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at BronxNet and talking about the work that you do. We truly appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
To learn more about the work that Chinatown Soup does, please go to their website. We'll be back with more Open right after this.